Hello, this is Black Country Blokes chewing the fat.
Listen.
I've been hearing a lot lately about men don't talk, but in my experience, men do talk, just people aren't listening. So it's going to be me and a group of blokes discussing our struggles and victories through life. Warning, there may be some bad language, so apologies to all the moms, especially my own. Let's get going.
Listen.
This is Black Country Blokes chewing the fat with me, Kev Dillon, Lee Cadman, Craig Finches, Aaron Dew, and our special guest today is Alexander Walker. Now, Alexander's already been on the show back in the real world when we were sat by the boxing ring, and you may also recognise him from our starting credits. You see him pop up at the end. Now, Alexander is a hypnotherapist, and he's doing remarkable work. I've been to see him personally. He's fantastic at what he does. He helped me get through a lot of my demons. Give me some brilliant advice, and I'll back him, full-heartedly. I'll be brilliant what he does. So, Alexander, first, will you explain what hypnosis actually is? Not hypnotherapy, not hypnosis, sorry.
Yes, thank you for having me on today, Kevin. So hypnotherapy, we are using the power of the unconscious mind to help the client or patient resolve their issues. And it's basically getting them into a state of relaxation, very similar to how you would be just before you go to sleep. This is kind of a deeper state where you are still conscious and aware of everything. And then we access the potential of your unconscious mind to find answers that you already have. Because the idea here, like in counseling, for example, is that you already have the answers. The client already has all the answers, all the energy, everything they need to solve their own problems. So it's about getting them to find the answers. So we don't really tell them what to do. They discover for themselves what to do. And then we somehow wrap that all up into a nice relaxation technique to get into them moving forward afterwards, after the session.
I mean, it's brilliant. And so I've worked with Nick Davis as well, who also very good. And it's a very weird sensation. The more you do it, deeper you go into it, don't you? But I remember when we've talked about it before, and people think, well, how about if at any stage, if you're not comfortable, you can wake yourself up, can't you? It's not like in stage hypnosis, like in Las Vegas, where they're making you walk around pretending to be a chicken. It's if anything goes against your core values, you're still conscious, aren't you?
Absolutely. This isn't anything to do with what you just referred to. This is about therapy, and it's about the client being in control. Okay, so this is full transparency. We clearly explain to the client what's going on, what's going to happen. They're aware the entire time. And at any moment they can stop. They can open their eyes, stand up and leave, or whatever they want to do. Okay, this isn't about manipulation. This is about helping them and relax and guide them to find their answers, to achieve the goals that they want to achieve. So again, they tell me what they want to achieve, and we only work on that.
I remember when we were working with each other, it must be 2 years. It was, in fact, what started this up. So I was having problems, and I remember you saying, why don't you get yourself a hobby? And I was saying, well, what am I going to do, Pilates or yoga? And then I'd been on Aaron's show earlier in the year on Find Your Voice, which is a brilliant podcast. If you want another podcast to listen to, please go up to Find Your Voice. And I was his first guest. Then I was invited down to a radio show in London, and I was thinking, I can do this. So I got us four together, and you're the reason that gave me the confidence to start this up. And I remember working with you and saying, like how we described it together, you were helping me find it. And I was saying, I'm meeting the world with a doorman. And if they can fight the doorman, then the diplomat is behind him. Then with your help, I said, haven't you got those in the wrong order? Have the diplomat at the start, and then the doorman's there to back you up. And by saying that, it opened so many doors in my mind, saying, I'm meeting people with aggression, and then they're retaliating with aggression. And by talking to you and working with it, it brought me on leaps and bounds.
That's wonderful, Kevin, and thanks for sharing that. And I just really want to emphasize that I didn't give you the confidence. You found that confidence in yourself, like you found the answers in yourself. Again, that's what we do. We don't give you anything. We just well, if anything, we support you in finding those answers. So you did all that yourself. That was amazing work that you did. I couldn't have done that without you. So thanks to you.
But I mean, have any of you lot ever done hypnosis?
I have. Yep, I have. So I initially thought it'd be like, Paul McKenna show where you literally put to sleep. And I remember the first session I ever had. So I went for two reasons. One, I used to suffer with binge eating pretty excessively. So having lost so much weight and suppressed myself from, like, should we call them nice foods, I used to find myself gorging every single weekend. And I'm talking 10 to 15,000 calories every single Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which was not great. And alongside that, I was just starting a master's course, and I was always a shy kid growing up. So I was always a quiet one until you got to know me. And I said, I want a new chapter in my life, that when I start this master's course, I don't want to be the kid at the back. I want to just be myself, how I normally feel with, a bottle of beer in my hand. And I went to this lady, and the first session, I remember thinking, why am I paying for this? Because again, she was kind of, it felt like affirmations. I didn't fall asleep or anything until probably the last 2 or 3 minutes, where I felt myself dozing off. But anyway, I stuck by it. I trusted the process. And since that day, well, firstly, nobody knew that I had anxiety or shyness during my 2 years of masters. So it definitely worked in that respect. And in terms of binging, from somebody who used to binge 3 times a week, I've probably binged 3 times in the last 6 years. And that's normally if I'm intoxicated with alcohol. So my experience with hypnotherapy is like amazing. Like I recommend it all the time. I think it's such a powerful thing. And you just said something there, Alexander, which was interesting, which was that Kevin kind of did the work and he found that confidence. And as you were saying that, I was thinking, yeah, somehow, some way, through what I went through with the hypnotherapy, I found my confidence that I wasn't the shy person. So I'd recommend it to anyone who's struggling in any facet of their life. I'm not sure how far it extends to, and maybe that's a question you can answer. But for myself, for binge eating and anxiety and shyness, it was brilliant.
I also think, like, when you go to these things, whether it's hypnotherapy or counseling, you've got to go with an open mind. You want to go because you want it to work. And it's like coming up to the boxing gym and saying, I want you to teach me how to box, but my dad teach me how to do this, and my brother's taught me. You can only learn if you're willing to listen to the teacher. If you go with saying this isn't going to work, maybe you're not in the right frame to do it. What would you say about that, Alexander?
I think that's probably one of the reasons why a contract is so important. It describes what is expected of the client, what is expected of the therapist or counsellor. And a free consultation, I always give free consultations. I'm sure other therapists and counsellors do as well. So you can answer all of those questions. And I always make sure those questions, which are usually asked, or even if they're not asked, they're usually there in the mind somewhere. I usually make sure those are all addressed, because you can go and sabotage it. And we do expect some self-sabotage. It's expected in the therapy, but there needs to be a realistic expectation of what's going to happen.
Why do you think people self-sabotage?
I think we all are aware of the idea that change is scary, and it's a simple idea that change is scary, and it's about what can I deal with. Can I cope with how life was, with all its limitations and stresses on me? Can I cope with that, or is that enough? When is it enough? And if it becomes too much, that's when we usually see clients come for therapy, because they want to say enough is enough. I don't want to live the way I used to live. But then we start to get that shift. The shift starts to move, and then there's that people in their lives start to notice that they are changing, and they also may not like it. There's some resistance, and that person can get a little hostility from their family, from their friends, from their work colleagues. That person starts to stand up for themselves, and that is also part of the change. So they're going to start to feel, some of them, that they're being persecuted, and then it's natural to then blame the therapist, or then say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, it's not worth it, and then go back to how they were. So change is scary, it's new, and it's sometimes it's a way of saying goodbye to certain things. Again, we mentioned earlier about loss. Sometimes it is the loss of the old lifestyle, old activities, and maybe some unhealthy relationships. So that's a big ask, and we really want to make sure the clients understand this, because sometimes they're not aware of what might happen once they get to the end of their goal, and that's going to be beneficial for them, but it does also include losses.
Well, we were talking about that the other week, saying like when you pack in the booze, when you pack in the drugs, when you pack in, then your social circle, even though you're no longer drinking or doing drugs or X, Y, and Z, you can lose friends because they want drunken Kev, they want off the head Darren, because that's what you are to them. And then when you sort yourself out, they don't want you to change because that's how you are to those people.
Exactly. And then they have to look at themselves, and they don't like that, because then it's, well, he can change or Kevin can change. And that idea is scary, or maybe I should change. There's things that I don't like about myself. And of course, rather than look at ourselves, we then project that onto the other person. They're the one that's the problem, not the stuff I do. It's their problem. They're the ones. And they persecute that person, sadly.
And how many years have you been doing this for now?
I think about 3 now. I think 2018 to 19, 20, about 3 years now. I'm also training as an integrative counsellor as well, because I really feel that counselling is beneficial, helping people have a voice. Because hypnotherapy is essentially techniques, in my opinion. And integrative counselling also adds things like person-centered approach. There's been scientific research that states it doesn't really matter what kind of modality or approach you use. One of the best measurements of success of therapy is the quality of the relationship between the client and the therapist or counselor. So this comes under a lot of person-centered style counseling, and I really just want to get better results for the clients. And this is all important, in my opinion, the relationship you have, the quality of the relationship, and also being able to offer other areas and other opportunities for that client to find their own answers.
Have you felt with the lockdown being how people, I could go and see a dentist and have the dentist in my mouth. I can go and have a chiropodist, cut my toenails off. But in a lot of circumstances, you haven't able to have a client going into a counsellor, hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner's office wearing the appropriate PPE. What do you think about it? I think we're still dividing the physical health and the mental health too much.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting point. I think for me personally, I have seen the value of doing online therapy, online counselling. It can be achieved. There are some limitations to that. If that's what you're asking, I'm not sure. Maybe did I miss?
No, I mean, that was one of the questions. How do you find it in the real world to the virtual world? But I was trying to say, I still think it's a bit weird how we can see the dentist, chiropodist, X, Y, and Z, but we can't go into a therapist's office. Does that make sense?
Why can't we?
I've heard with different people like that. I couldn't come into your office. A lot of people I've been talking to, a lot of people within the mental health, it's all gone on virtual sites instead of being in the flesh.
Right. I see. I think that's, yeah. Okay. So I know some counsellors and therapists have a large area room, and they've got like a proper exit. They can come in and leave. And I know other counsellors like myself, we don't have that space for that. So I don't know about the dentists and the chiropodists and the doctors. But that's certainly an interesting point you're raising. Why can't we do that? I don't know. This is a personal thing with the counsellors as well. They may not want to do that. They may have other responsibilities at home that they have to look after. But online works very well. Telephone as well. We even have email and texting therapy services as well. So there are a lot of opportunities. And there are counsellors out there that still are able to offer that face-to-face because they have the room space to do that.
That's good because, as I say, even though we're in 2021 and everyone's talking about mental health, a lot of people still see the physical health and the mental health as the physical health is real because you've lost your eyes, you broke your nose, your legs fell off,
you can see it.
Yeah, but then there's still that kind of stigma of I've heard of mental health, but is it all a load of cobblers? Kind of attitude.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's a common That's a common attitude for some people. You can't see it, so it's kind of like it's not there. But the mental health can, of course, break out in physical illnesses, high blood pressure, angina, things like strokes. It is real, and I think it's the next part of our evolution, isn't it? To come to face to accept that our mental health awareness is something real, and we do need to work with it. Things like attachment issues, you can't see them, but you can see the behaviors and how they affect in later life. All this information is there. It's been there for years. We just need to, I don't know, encourage people to look at their history, look at what we've been doing, and be ready to accept the truth, I guess. That mental health is there, that the evidence is there, and we do need to be addressing it in every day and make it a part of our lifestyle. That's what I'm saying.
Well, yes, and it's not just a throwaway word, is it, mental health? It's not like through the lockdown we've all got used to saying social distance. I saw my mum, but it's a social distance. Mental health's been around forever, hasn't it? But hopefully we're moving in the right direction of normalising it, or not normalising it, but accepting it for an actual thing.
Well, yeah, I think perhaps hundreds and thousands of years ago, we were all a closer collective society, and perhaps Western society now, especially with technology, we go to our own rooms, we have our own mobile phones and devices. There's much more loneliness there now. Our elderly go to care homes away from us, and perhaps that sense of isolation, we perhaps maybe not have evolved to deal with that yet, and so that can cause an issue, perhaps, with mental health. And we need to and with isolation, of course, with COVID, that will also affect our mental health. So we need to find ways around that.
Craig, have you got anything you'd like to say or ask Alexander?
No, at this moment, if I'm honest, mate, I'm still just listening in and taking it all in, because I know, like, the hypnotherapy side, when you say, has anyone had it, I was always under the impression it was like what you said, Kevin, they turn you into a chicken and this, that and the other. And I tend to not trust people too easily. So being under that impression and never inquiring about it, you always think that. But when you said that, it's all about the person being in control as opposed to the manipulation, I think that's definitely something that I'd never looked at before, and it's just blind ignorance, basically, because I never looked into it, because I always thought I'm never gonna, have anyone hypnotize me or anything like this, because I don't trust they're not going to say this or do this or encourage this. So I've got no real questions at the minute, but that's opened my eyes. You saying that, I never really, even when Nick's been on, Kev, I never looked at it and thought, it's something I'd look at doing, but never say never. Surprised me.
It's like when you're hypnotised, it's got like, I'm not a football fan, as everyone knows. So it's like, if you support the Wolves, Alexander won't go, and now you support the Baggies, because your mind's still there to go, no, I don't, or I don't agree with that. And if at any stage you wanted to just sit forwards and shake your head, you're fully able to do it, aren't you, Alexander?
Yes, and we kind of like put in a security at the beginning. Your unconscious will not accept any negative statements or anything that will harm you. And why would I want to do that anyway? This isn't a movie. This is real life, yeah? We're in the business of helping people. If I did that to you, I'm not going to have a business, right? People are going to know very quickly that I do irresponsible, stupid, foolish things for no reason. I don't do that. It's not part of what hypnotherapy is. It's a therapy. And you are in control of that experience.
It's funny, like sometimes when I've left the office and when I've been with you, and you can feel emotional. You can feel like some days, like Mum used to say, I go like, how do you feel? And sometimes I go, I feel all right. And other days I'd be like a key had turned, and you'd be thinking, oh my neck. It's ever such a strange feeling, but it's a good feeling, and it's knocking up. Sometimes you're turning switches on, sometimes you're switching them off, or sometimes you're not thinking about you. If you're someone like me who's always thinking about something on my head, and then you can make peace with it, or you go, blooming heck, that's why I was thinking about that. it was actually the thing I was thinking about, but I was thinking of that because that meant something else. But you've just put everything in order for yourself.
Yeah, I think something of what you're talking about there, Kev, is we don't know where that stuff comes from, not always. And when we're able to shine a light on it, it's like, oh, that's where it comes from. And then it loses its mysticism, and it kind of like just disappears sometimes. And then other times it's about challenging that negative thought, that negative belief. And when you are able to put doubt into a belief, say, for example, everything I do is wrong, you can start to then look at that, to start thinking, why do I think everything I do is wrong? Is everything I do wrong? That can't be possible, can it? And then you start to look at that, and then you start to see the cracks in the logic. And from then, you can start to sort of chip away at it and break it down and dismiss it. But again, it depends what kind of therapy you want to address, which issues, because that is definitely part of something else. And if you want to get rid of that on its own, you can use that. You can use hypnotherapy for that. Or you want to talk about it a bit more, find your own voice and find why those things are happening, possibly counseling, because it's a lot longer, you can explore a lot more, would be a benefit to you as well. I think all of the therapies have some value, is what I'm trying to say there.
And you've got to realise when you go out for these things, if one thing doesn't work, don't give up with the whole thing.
It's like going to a restaurant, isn't it, and having a bad meal. Do you give up on all restaurants because you had one bad meal? No. Or do you give up on steak because someone overcooked your steak? No. You go to another restaurant, or maybe the chef had a bad day or something. Maybe you go to another restaurant, or something else like that. Don't give up on therapists. You've got to find the right one for you. We don't always gel perfectly with everyone we meet, and that's okay too.
Because you're also doing this wonderful thing called caring for the carers in partnership with Dudley Mind, aren't you?
That's right. Sandra Vaughan, Chief Executive, helped me set that up. Well, she's basically set that up, and I'm sort of leading that. Caring for the carers. It's on Fridays now. We've moved it to Friday mornings. And that's really, again, helping carers find their own voice and explore their feelings, because it's kind of a challenging lifestyle that you constantly have that doesn't pay anything. And it's kind of put upon you. We don't choose to be carers in these contexts. And it's really about giving time and a voice and a safe space for those carers to talk about what they've been going through, how they're feeling. There's some issues we've noticed are people feeling sort of perhaps undervalued, perhaps not noticed. The attention naturally goes towards the person that is in need of care. Say, for example, if you have a child with special needs, the attention naturally focuses on them, and we kind of forget everyone around them. And so this is kind of for the carers to come and just able to be reminded that they're important as well. We need those people as well. And how are you feeling? Get back in touch with those feelings you may have been holding back, because there's this attitude of needing to be strong, isn't there? You've got to be strong when you're caring for someone else 24 hours a day. It's exhausting. You think about it, you know it is. And so this is a safe place for you to come. It's on Zoom, and you can join the group and just, give you time to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, Lee, would you like to chime in with that?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I've recently become the carer for my daughter, and I bet it's great to have a group of people who've been through similar experiences. I think the disabled and the carers, some of the most discriminated against people probably in the UK. I found myself every little thing you have to do within regards to care for my daughter, or getting into school plays, or getting equipment. It's all one big fight. For these basic rights of being able to go to school or being able to get hospital appointments at the moment. So I think having a group of people where you can go in there and they've had those shared experiences, it's only a bonus.
Yeah, thank you. Can I ask you a question, Lee?
Of course.
So how have you found the support so far from other agencies, other services for your daughter?
It varies. It just varies. I mean, some of it's great, like the school she's in now. They're absolutely fantastic, and the nurses within that school. We get weekly welfare calls. That side of things great, but I think a lot of the time and issue is for me is It's a lot of chasing up and a lot of trying to find out where things are, medicines, equipment, that side of thing definitely needs improving.
Is that a common thing that they talk about, Alexander? Obviously, we can't go into what you talk about, privacy issues, but is that like something that people say, like sometimes they feel failed by the system?
Well, I don't know about that, but the overall feeling is that there are a lot of different agencies and a lot of different rules, and they're all trying to sort of address the same issue, and the legislation isn't that accessible, and you could have been some found that they were eligible for certain things, and then time passed and they were no longer eligible, and then others found vice versa, they weren't and now they are, and nothing seems to have changed other than the passage of time. So there is this sort of inconsistency, and of course it breeds anxiety and worry. Like even though it's a law and it's written, they don't really know how or when they get to take advantage of that. And so there's a lot of sort of stress around what am I entitled to, when are we going to get it, and how long will it last? These kinds of questions are quite common.
I think it's also very hard to find some of that information out. For my job, I sold disability equipment, majority to children, or to the parents for the children. And the amount of times I'd go around someone's house and they wouldn't know the basics of what they can claim for, or what funding is out there available to buy certain things. It was astonishing. And it's a lifeline, there's plenty, there's carers out there who are caring full time and don't even know they can get a carer's allowance.
Yeah.
And to me, that's amazing. We need, for me, I think once your child is registered disabled, there ought to be someone in place who comes around and explains all this to you, and points you in the direction of where you may be able to get this funding or carer's allowance or anything where you can get these things from, so you can go down the path then of finding it. Because a big stress for me is definitely money. We went from two family to me and my wife working to only one of us working. So straight away you've cut your household income in half, and the stresses around that. And then there's the extra stress of caring for a disabled daughter, the money that cost. At one point we were spending £150 a month on probes, things like that, things that you probably wouldn't think of, but it's an expensive game. It really is.
I think sometimes when you've got to fill out the paperwork, it's almost like you've got to justify it, and you're thinking, some illnesses like me and my eyes or colour, it's not like I pulled my back, or it's not like you're trying to get off on the sick. It is a genuine illness, and some of the forms you have to fill in, you're thinking, well, I'm not a crook. I'm either disabled or my child is disabled.
Kev, we have a prime example of that. We have social services involved in Callers Care, and when they come round, now most people hear social services and go, "Oh, they must be doing something wrong here. They must be doing something wrong with their kids." And when the lady comes round and actually assesses us, it feels like that as well. She asked for the kids the other two kids to come downstairs if they're upstairs, so she can talk to them and ask how they are and whether they're happy. And all we actually have social services there for is because they provide 4 hours of care a week, or 4 hours that we can use for care a week for another person to come in. But we really, even the way the letters are written, once they've decided how many hours we get, you feel like you're in the spotlight, and you feel like you feel like they're looking for something that you've done wrong. Whereas that's not that at that stage, that's not their job. Their job is to decide how many hours extra care she needs.
And it's intimidating for people. once again, Alexander, without diving too much, is that a reoccurring thing that people talk about?
Absolutely. If you look at the guidelines for the British Association of Counsellors and Psychotherapists, and you compare that to the guidelines of social workers, the wording is very different. The counselling aspect is very sort of friendly. It's very person-centered. It's caring and supporting. With the social workers guidelines, it's very much you're an agent of change, and it's very sort of like you're going out there to prevent things happening. You're stopping things happening. You're doing the good. You're doing the good thing, so that they're out there active, trying to find, an issue that they can stop. The wording is very different. So it embodies that kind of attitude. Unfortunately, that's been my experience from reading the legislation anyway.
Can I just jump in as well?
Yeah.
Just on that, that's really interesting. You said that. So when I went back to uni to do masters, it was actually in social work. So I actually became a social worker for a very small amount of time. So one of my work experiences was working with adults and doing some similar stuff to what you were on about, Lee, in terms of helping people with carers allowance and things like that. I think it was really a difficult decision for me giving up social work, because myself and my cohort, we joined that to try and change the world. As naive as that might sound, we genuinely wanted to help people. And again, you mentioned person-centered approach. I learned that at university in terms of treating people with dignity, compassion, respect, and all of that protocol there. And I very quickly realized, and I probably had one of the better social work jobs in terms of I was a supervising social worker, so I worked with foster families. You recognize it becomes more of a paperwork. I used to say we're not social workers, we're paper workers. And to the point that you want to be out there helping families, telling them about all the stuff that they're entitled to, trying to support them. But what I realized was when I was looking around my peers, we were amazing people outside of work, but it's the moment you come into work, you're almost programmed just to abide by guidelines, a bit like an agent, to the point everything is a tick box exercise. And within about 3 or 4 months, I very quickly realized, like sunk cost fallacy, I had to then jump out of this, because I thought I'm either going to resent this and I'm not going to be able to help no one, or I can leave this and actually try and help people in a different way. And my heart goes out to a lot of social workers, because I sometimes think they're the brunt of everything, but your hands are tied behind your back, because you're coming into the office and you're saying to your supervising manager, for example, and obviously they got their own stresses, that I need to be with this family for more than 4 hours a week or more than that. And they're like, you get 15 minutes every fortnight or 15 minutes a month. And it makes it very, very difficult. So kind of defending the social workers, because I understand what it's like there. I know why I studied it. I know why 99% of them study. They want to be in a similar position to yourself, Alexander, in terms of promoting change and helping people. But sometimes it's all about the job, isn't it? It's about KPIs, getting stuff done, having certain reports done. And that's a shame, because it's one of the jobs that can actually make a positive change as well.
Yeah, but the workload is so much, and
Much.
everything is just on them. They can get into trouble so easily. It just everything
Absolutely.
is. So they've just got such a stressful job that they have to make sure that they cover themselves. But that you also want to help people at the same time as well. And you got to make those judgment calls. You make a wrong call as a social worker. Not only have you damaged your own reputation, your own job, but you've potentially hurt somebody, or even worse. So I don't want to do that job at all. And my heart goes out to social workers. We do need them. But I was just really talking about the legislation. The way it's worded is for me, it's kind of a bit more aggressive than say, a counsellor psychotherapist guidelines. You can definitely tell in the literature the kind of attitude they want you to adopt, as I think you've illustrated. So thank you.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that kind of shows in my experience, because as I say, I feel like when that person comes around, that I'm treated like someone who is potentially abusing their child, not someone who has a disabled child, and we just need a bit of extra help with getting a carer in. And I think that there needs to be a separation there. You're going into two totally different households. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think a lot of them just get desensitized as well in that environment, to the point that level of empathy or feeling, it just kind of disappears. Because I've sat with some social workers who've only been in there 2 or 3 years, and I've gone and listened to a story, for example, from a family, and I'm almost like in tears just hearing, the struggles, and especially carers. Like I'm so happy we're doing the caring for carers here, because carers are they're the superheroes of this world. They're not getting paid nothing. It's all they've obviously then got their own stresses for giving that time up. And I used to watch them, and I used to look at some of the more experienced social workers and think, hasn't this affected you? This is making me crumble. And I used to ask that question sometimes, and they just said, you just kind of get used to it. And I was like, well, I don't want to just get used to it, because then you lose that little bit of element of the human connection as well, which is a shame.
And I think what you're talking about there as well, possibly, is burnout as well. You get desensitized to it, so you kind of lose empathy. You stop caring, and that's when, again, things can get on top of you, and the job can get sort of really toxic, and you start to resent it. It starts to give you more stress. You stop caring. You start to make mistakes, and this can happen in any profession. So you got to be, because I mean, personally, I think that's bad advice. My opinion is that's bad advice. You just got to get used to it. But I've never been a social worker, so I don't know. But personally, don't get used to something. If it causes a problem, it should cause a problem. And maybe you need to go away and perhaps have counselling or some sort of therapy to sort of help you work through it. Because we've got to look after our physical and our mental health. This should be the one thing I'd like everyone to take away from this, is the mental health is important. It's not just once or twice every 2 years. It's a regular thing. It doesn't have to cost money. You don't have to go to therapy or counseling to get that same mental health, wellness. You can do other things. It can be engaging in hobbies. It can be physical exercise as well. It can be going out and learning new things, pushing out yourself outside of your comfort zone, or take your comfort zone with you to new places, if that helps. Yeah, it's about personal development.
Well, on that note, Lee, will you show our poster again, please? It's a bit of a segue, but we're doing our support group every Wednesday, and it's for free. No money whatsoever for men over 18 years of age. You can come and have a chat from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. At 8 o'clock, we have a little 10-minute break where we have a cup of coffee, cigarettes if you want one. And then in the real world, from the 14th of April, when the club's officially back open, we'll be doing a half an hour chat, 40 minutes boxing training. Then once all them endorphins are bouncing around, we'll warm down and once again finish with another chat. So let's get the physical and the mental body working together. So if you want to come to one of our sessions, obviously we're in the Black Country in Brawley Hill. Please, what's our email address, Mr. Cadman?
So it's blackcountryblokes@gmail.com.
And if you could send that in within 24 hours of the 7 o'clock, just because we have to go through the COVID tests, just proving that you're well to come. Once you're there, you'll be temperatured, and we're sitting at a safe distance. So, yeah, I mean, Alexander, I mean, as I said before we come on, I said, have you got any tips or facts some tips that people can take away from this episode?
Well, a lot of people lately are having a lot of difficulty sleeping. So I figured just a very basic couple of strategies on how to get a good night's sleep. Obviously, if you're in bed with your phone or watching TV, stop that immediately, put that away, because your brain is getting used to being active whilst it's in bed. We don't want that for this. So what we want you to do is put down your phones, turn off your TVs. If you're worried about trying to get to sleep, you lie down, and we want you to be in the moment. So we don't want you thinking about what you did terribly wrong 10 years ago or what you've got to do tomorrow. We want you to be in the moment, in the present. So I want you can practice this anywhere, but specifically in bed, you lie down and just notice how the bed feels against your back, against your legs, and how the duvet or sheets feel on top of your body, and how your head feels against the pillow. And notice the temperature, notice the softness, and notice anything else that you may be experiencing in that moment with you lying down in bed. And what I want you to do then is to start imagining or start remembering the last time you had a really good night's sleep, and how that felt in your body, how it felt in your toes. Start imagining really, really sleepy toes and what that might feel like for you. And then imagine how that might feel like in every other part of your body. That real beautiful sleepiness in your body in that present moment in time. Okay. Because it's about being in the moment, and that's all that moment is for you and your sleep. So I want you to try and practice that, everyone, okay? And you can practice this when you're sitting down as well. if you just want to get that moment away from everything, where you're not thinking about what you have to do next, you're not thinking about what you have done yesterday or what you have to do in the future, you've got a moment to yourself. Think about that. Be aware of how your body feels and how it's reacting to the chair, how your feet are feeling in your shoes, in your clothes, underneath, and take that moment to be in that moment. That's all I have to say for that. So thank you.
Because I think, like, with I went on tour with the Blokes in 2019, and one of the coaches had his phone on, because I never have my phone in the bedroom, and we were sharing a hotel room, me and one of the coaches, and I was lying there, and every bloody 10 minutes or so, beep, 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 or it'd flash, and I wasn't used to it. I was thinking, how can you switch off? Because that natural part of me would have to keep going. Oh, it's Alexander. Oh, it's Lee. So just turn it off. If that's your alarm clock, buy yourself an alarm clock. For the sake of a tenner, but it might give you a better night's sleep.
It's about being in the moment, but you have to have the right environment. So don't leave your TV on standby. Don't leave your phone charging overnight if you can help it, because that's not going to be good for you either. And be in the moment. And just take the time to imagine and remember a good night's sleep, a deep sleep, and how that felt in your mind and body. And just encourage that to come. And it then naturally comes to you. It comes back to you. And that just help you drift into a sleep.
Because you suffer your sleep, don't you, Craig?
I do, mate, yeah. Nightmares or just unrest. A lot going on with my family at the moment. Like last night, struggled. And I tend to find, even physiologically, my stomach acts up. They reckoned it was IBS, but colon cancer, and that runs in my family. And we're having a tough time with it at the moment. And I've had all the checks and nothing. And the doctor said to me, it could be stress. And I said, well, my partner said to me last night, your stomach tends to be really bad when you've just had some bad news. And yesterday I had some really bad news. And it was really cramping up last night, and I couldn't sleep, and I was in tears. And I just don't sleep if I find I can't shut off or I've had some bad news. And a lot of what I do is I think of, I'm quite a visionary. I'm a creative, and I tend to find, like, being a creative, you just can't shut off naturally anyway. If you try and clear your mind, you start telling yourself other things. So it had happened like this for me, right? Don't think of this, don't think of that, don't think of it. Oh, think of this, and then it was just this, and then I'd be thinking about what I was telling myself not to think about. So I do tend to find I do have really bad sleep patterns.
I think that's very interesting. If I can just come in there for a moment, Craig. Don't think about this. Your mind starts thinking about what you should be thinking about. You say you're creative visually, I heard there, I think. So for you, perhaps it's something about what would be a good technique we use in hypnotherapy all the time is a safe place for relaxation, a safe favorite place for relaxation. It can be real or imagined, and you go there. No negativity or any negative thoughts is allowed there. It's just for healing and relaxation, and where you can find answers. Now, whatever that may be, you close your eyes and you just see what your unconscious gives you. And if you get any negative stuff coming in, just reject it. And then this is about practicing the technique, okay, and seeing where it takes you to. We practice this stuff all the time, but my heart goes out to you, Craig. Yeah, I know somewhat of what you're talking about.
Thank you. And like, as you just said, any technique, I'm willing to try absolutely anything. I did the whole deleting of every social media, and I just started listening to, I know you say don't, like, keep your mind active, but I started, like, because I couldn't sleep, I'd have my earphones in, I'd be listening to books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or anything that was of any value, motivational, old sayings, and like just factual things, or just things that I could go to sleep listening to. And then I'd find that I'd fall asleep, but then I'd wake up and have to turn the thing off, and it was sort of counterintuitive in the end. So I'm willing to try anything.
Yeah, so I would strongly recommend that. Safe favorite place of relaxation. Try not to use your conscious mind to visualize it. Try to see what your unconscious mind gives you, and then almost sort of like you're walking through the darkness, trying to find what it looks like, and then the light comes on and it starts to show you what it is, and then you can sort of start to explore it. Okay, and just got to say to you, unconscious, I'd like you to take me to a safe favorite place of relaxation. This is only for positive feelings here. Deep thoughts of relaxation and healing are available here. Safe favorite place of relaxation, and see what your unconscious gives you to work with, and get to sleep in that way. At least that way, it will start to give you a stronger, safe environment in your mind that you can retreat to. It may be different every time you use it as well, so don't worry about that either.
Okay, thank you for that, because I've been listening to you and I don't feel like I've been able to add any kind of value to the conversation, if I'm absolutely honest. So I've just been absorbing. So, you've just gave me something there that could potentially see me on a better path. So I really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely fine. You can use a countdown from 1 to 10 as well. With each descending number, you relax deeper, more deeper into a natural state of relaxation. Do it slowly in your mind before you then go to a safe favorite place of relaxation. The more you practice it, the better results you'll get. And that's all I can give you for the time being.
But I still do that to this day. If I'm going through a big thing,
yeah.
I get myself down, I lie down, I go, get my breathing right, and I'm counting. It's like 10, getting deeper, relaxing, 9, all the way down. And then I remember some of the stuff you got me doing, like I had to get a trolley with negative thoughts in, then I'll throw it on the fire. Then once all they've gone, then I everything is gone. Then I try and refill myself up, or I say, let it all the negative just go out of your fingertips and your toes now. I can't praise hypnotherapy enough. And so anyone, go and try it.
Yeah, I think just check the training of the therapist first. Just do that, because it's not regulated. So just check that they've had at least a good year or so training before you go to them. Okay, that's my opinion.
You're also saying off there about the power of words. Would you like to go into that, like how we're saying, like I must do this? Yes.
So another technique. This is for people, and I think the majority of us feel this at sometimes. We don't feel in control. So this technique is to just ask yourself, write down 3 sentences of something you have to do, something you must do, and something you should do. Okay, and usually we do this. We get you to write that down, and then afterwards we then change the should and the must and the have to into choose. I choose to do something. For example, I must go to work. I choose to go to work. And see and notice in your body and in your mind any changes, any shifts that happen when you replace that. Because what you may find is that starts to give you a little bit more of empowerment, independence, that you are choosing to do it. Now, for some of you, it may be actually very difficult for you to do that for another sentence. It may be like, no, I can't do that. And that's also very interesting. And I'd like you to just explore why that may be difficult for you to do that. Because it may be that once you change it to choose to do it, you realize you're not doing it and you don't have a good enough reason as to why you're not doing it. So that's very interesting. So that's just a little insight that I can give you that you can practice on yourselves at any time. Okay, hopefully that's clear.
Well, it is, isn't it? When you go, oh, I've got to go to the club tonight because I've got to get me running. But if you go, I choose to go to the club. I want to get my running, because if I get my running, I'm going to feel fitter. But that instance of I've got to get it in, or
yeah, I've got to do it.
And that old saying, by my age, I should be somewhere better now. I should have a missus. I should have my own house. And it's like, as you said, it's like your parents saying, well, you should be financially better off now. And by that word alone, that puts pressure on us, doesn't it?
Yeah, who is telling you should be doing something? Try and think about who is telling you that, because that's probably not correct. You are where you are, and nobody could have predicted this. So you really are where you should be at this moment in time, whether you believe in everything has a meaning or not. You are where you should be based on your choices, and you have had choices. and these are your choices. You're just going to change that perception to realize that you are there because you choose to be. And even though we can't choose everything that happens to us in life, we can choose how we respond to this. I think I spoke about to Aaron, didn't I, about this, choosing response to something, and that will really help you feel empowered and create a more internal locus of control, to reference Carl Rogers, rather than have an external locus of control where you feel everything is controlling your life. You have this internal locus of control, you feel more empowered, and you can have a better attitude with your life just by changing a couple of those words as to what you feel you should do or will do or want to do, and what you choose to do.
I think that's, if I can interject there as well, I think it's mad you should say about the things you are exactly where you should be. I mean, like, I'll try and tell myself that, you know, if I'd have, I don't know, made a success of myself 10, 15, 20 years back, I may have lost it all because I wouldn't have valued it as much. And I think a lot of my sleepless nights come as well because I put myself under so much pressure. Someone said to me lately, you're taking too much on again. Because I tend to find I burn the candle at both ends. I try and like master everything within a really short period of time because I feel within myself that I'm playing catch up for my 20s. There are late teens and early 20s. They're wasted just clubbing or having a drink and this and the other. So I'm trying to hold myself accountable for that now, but make up for lost ground. And I think it's just a vicious circle. Is that?
So what do you do?
Work-wise?
No. So what do you do with that situation? You're burning the candle at both ends. You've got all these issues going on. So what do you do? What is the answer for you?
At the minute, I just continue doing it. You know, I'll go from, if it's not education, it's this, that, and the other. And I'll just go from, if I've had enough, I've got information overload with that book, then I'll just move on to the next educational one. And I said to you, Kev, that lately I feel that I've reached our information overload, and I've said to my partner, I'll end up having a breakdown because I feel I'm putting myself I'm in the pressure cooker. So lately what I've been doing is I've just been, let's say, going on YouTube and just random topics like land navigation. I've been learning how to navigate land using a compass and a map, or lock picking, you know, and then very random subjects, but they're not ones that, they're more like of a hobbyist nature as opposed to trying to like make a success of myself. So I'm just trying to, you know, negate the pressure cooker, cool the pressure cooker down a little bit with some random subjects, but still learning, believe it or not.
Just less sort of stressful.
Yeah.
Craig, can I just jump in on that as well? I might be completely segueing too much, but I find that personal development, it's a great thing, but it can also be a curse as well, because you almost get addicted to personal development to an extent. And it can cause either like analysis by paralysis, where in terms of you're just constantly learning and you're never actually moving forward or executing on something, or you have that feeling, and I think you suffer from this because I used to struggle with it, is that if you're not where you think you should be, for example, in life, you almost put it down to, I haven't worked hard enough. And sometimes it's just a process. Maybe it's meant to take 10, 15, 20 years, but because you're on this personal development journey where, you know, you're learning so much and your brain's throbbing 24/7, I do find it a gift and a curse. So for myself now, I try and be very specific with the stuff I let come into my mind in terms of personal development. I went through a stage, I think in 2 or 3 years, I read 250 books and I wore that like a badge of honor. But all I was doing was just learning for the sake of learning. And I was like, I don't need to know like X, Y, and Z. I need to know how to manage my anxiety. So I read How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, for example. I need to understand the growth mindset. So I read the mind. And then what I did is I got those books and they're literally here within arm's reach. And that's all I read. It's the same stuff. And every time I read it, I get something new from it. But it stopped me beating myself up. I'm not sure if that kind of resonates a little bit with yourself, but I did find personal development is a bit of a trap in terms, at least for myself, because I'd beat myself up. And I'd almost feel guilty for listening to music or doing something like watching a YouTube video on lockpicking. Like I felt like I had to be learning something in that moment. And that's not a good place to be in, because, you know, that's not what all life is. Like you've just learned a new skill there that, you know, you can add to your arsenal.
Yeah, I obsess. I live to extremes, and it's getting worse and worse as I get older. But I do obsess, as you say, and you do get that information overload and that analysis paralysis. And I find that I want to do it. I love self-development. It is like a
It's
drug.
addictive. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're addicted to the hike. But then when you look down and you're still treading the same ground, that's when it becomes bad for your health, your mental health.
It's like going to the gym too much, isn't it? You need time to recover.
Absolutely.
But we don't
So
see it, do we? Like you say, if we put ourselves under that cosh, we continue to do it. And then you feel bad if I have a day off. And I think, even when I go on holidays and my partner says, you're normal when you're on a day out, I said, I'm still not there because I'm still thinking what I should be doing or what I'm going to do when I get back work-wise. And then I lie awake at night and I feel guilty because I've been working so much. And every now and then my son say, can you play, Dad? And in a minute, let me just finish this spreadsheet or just finish this. And then before you know it, he's playing with someone else or he's watching the TV and you think, oh. So then you got the guilt and it's just a vicious circle. But, we learn to...
Did you hear what word jumped up again then? Should.
Yeah.
Every time I know what Aaron said, he goes, I shouldn't be. And it's a word that we throw around so much, but it's should is one of the worst words out there. You know what I mean? Because every time we talk about something negative, and both of you did it, should was in the sentence.
Yeah. So it's like I should be doing this. So if I'm not doing this, then I'm not of value. If I'm not reading a book every so often, then I'm not of value. If I'm not doing the self-development, then I'm not of value. Who told you that? Where did you get that from? Because that isn't healthy, obviously, because you should be able to do. Sorry, I've done it myself.
He's a hypocrite.
The point is, you should, because you're not doing it. You should be able to find the time for everything in your life, to look after this and to enjoy the moment, to enjoy the present. That's what you should be doing as a human being. But you're thinking, no, I should be doing this and I should be doing that. Now, perhaps I'm a bit of a hypocrite because I said should, but whatever you want, if that's your life, if that's how you want to live your life, then that's fine. But if it's causing you problems, how much of those problems are affecting your health? And do you want to do something about it? That's really what you must look at, I guess.
And I think a lot of times we start thinking about where do other people see me? Or, as I said, by the time I'm 30, I should be married, I should have a husband, I should have a wife, I should have children. And you're thinking, why? The opportunity wasn't there, or the opportunity was there, but it wasn't the right opportunity because it wasn't with the right person. And I think we go too much on where we believe others think that we should be. And really, who cares what those other people think about my life anyway?
Do you think it's do you think a lot of it is we've got so much to compare ourselves to of people age and whatever it is? I mean, it's like with time, when you say I don't have time and you spend too much time, back in the earlier days, it was sun up and sun down, and you knew you had we put ourselves down to seconds and minutes now, that I can only spend 10 minutes on this and 10 minutes on that, whereas back then it was sun up and sun down, and you had that amount of time to achieve what you had to achieve, make the ground up that you had to make. And now we're just down to seconds and milliseconds and minutes, and I think we hold ourselves too much. Even the invention of the mirror, we can see imperfections and flaws, and that can be a metaphorical sense as well. And I think that may be where it comes from. Even with me, subconsciously, I look and think, bloody hell, I'm 32 years of age. I've got 2 boys. I want this for them by the time they're my age. So then you're molding yourself accountable, and you're putting yourself to the minute of the clock, as opposed to saying, look, in this day, as long as I achieve this, it don't matter how long I spend on it.
What do you say, Alexander?
Yeah. If you're taking all that responsibility and you're owning it and saying, this is my responsibility, and that's what you're going to do, then okay. And if it's causing you problems, sleeplessness, physiological symptoms, anxiety in your stomach, then that's something else you need to look at, right? And it sounds like you kind of know, because you talked earlier about the pressure cooker. You don't want to get to that stage with a pressure cooker. You mentioned something else. Sorry, I forgot now what it was. About doing too much. Get into like a state where your health is just so debilitated. So you have that idea of where it might go wrong for you. That's why I asked, so what do you do? So what are you going to do about it? So you're aware of it, and now's the time to find that answer, Craig.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Something to look at. I will definitely. I just definitely need to take a step back, and not take a day off in respect to stop self-development, but maybe refocus my time in taking the step back to see how I can continue self-development without regressing, my mental health or my physical health, because I'm trying to advance and then I'm just regressing other parts of me, and it's just counterintuitive. So I think maybe just take a step back and see how I can go forth.
Can I ask a question, Craig?
Sorry.
Oh, just a quick question. Like, after every time you read a book, how many times you go, "Well done, Craig, you've just finished Aaron Jew's autobiography," or "I've learned how to pick a lock now," or are you like, learn how to pick a lock, and as soon as you've learned it, Googling something else? Maybe you've got to just give yourself a day just to go, well done, I've done that, and absorb the knowledge.
So I never do that. Like, if I read a book, not only do I read the book, but I've got paper the side of me. So if a word comes up there I don't know, I'll write that word down, then I have to research what that word means. So each page of a book leads to a page of a different book to learn the word or whatever it is. And as soon as the book's closed and finished, I'm just thinking on to the next one. I don't even digest it. So again, something to look at is stop trying to take in too much information.
I think this is where we get self-development wrong, though. Self-development's about experiences, not what you're reading. Ultimately, you could read 3,000 books. I was very much like Aaron. I could read 10 books in a week at one stage, quite happily. But the problem is, if you're reading 10 books in the week, you're not actually experiencing anything. And what knowledge are you actually gaining if you're not following through with that knowledge?
Very true. Before we finish up, I think we've had a couple. Have we had a couple of questions? I've seen something pop up.
I like how you threw that back to me there, Craig.
Yeah, I started saying we've had a couple of questions, and I thought, bloody hell, I've signed myself up here. But you might as well carry on now, Lee. Now you're talking.
Fair way. Let's get rid of that other banner first, and then. Okay, so Gemma Hawkins asks, Alex, do you think this is the fault of the parents and educators, not wanting to blame, but where does this voice come from?
Okay, well, thanks, Gemma. So do you think this is the fault of parents and educators? So I'm not entirely sure what you are referring to, but you mentioned the voice, not wanting to blame, but where does this voice come from? So going back to childhood, definitely parents, adults, and your peers will impose opinions and expectations upon you. And what we do is we internalize those from parents, adults, teachers, and our peers and siblings as well. And we form opinions, and those voices, those internalized voices become part of the external experience. It could also be movies and TV shows as well. And also, very subtle advertising gives us or implies expectations of us. So it may not be specifically what he or she said, but it could be, again, part of the culture. I know you've spoken about this before, Kevin, the cultural expectations of what you need to do to have the perfect body to be married. You're not married yet. You don't have that perfect body. It doesn't need someone to say it specifically, but it's implied a lot. And that's what we need to be aware of. So it's about finding your own identity. What do you really want? What's going to make you happy? And why is it going to make you happy? Finding out what you really want, I think, is the primary purpose you should be looking at in this life. What do you want? Or basically, before that even, who are you? Who are you and what do you want? And then by that way, we know who we are, and we know what we like and what we don't like, and then we can sort of dismiss those intrusive opinions of others that don't fit our self concept that is truly ours, our true self. I hope that answers.
Thank you for writing in, Jim.
Sorry, that's just nice comments. The rest, so I've been putting those up on the screen as we've been going along. So no question.
Would you also, before we round up the show, Lee, do you want to tell them about our new website?
Yes, that's been running across the bottom as well. So it's www.theblackcountryblokes.co.uk. We've got merchandise on there, and every profit we make from that goes back into our men's support group, just to fund things like teas and coffees and things along that line, and any future plans we have. So please go on there, take a look out, and hopefully you'll buy some stuff off there. We do a hoodie for 20 quid. I don't think you can beat that, to be quite honest.
It's good quality, let me tell you. Is there anything else, lads, before we wind down? Anyone wants to either ask Alex or just to mention?
Just to thank you. Thank you for sharing some of the tips. I think even the sleeping stuff is really, really useful. So I appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll ditto you, Aaron. I've definitely had something from you that I can take away and try over the next couple of weeks or couple of months. So, I really do appreciate it, because you get to a week's end sometimes and you think, where do I go from here? I feel I've tried everything, but I've not tried that. So, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
My absolute pleasure, Craig.
So I'm just going to advertise Tuesday show, Alexander. So while I'm rabbiting on, have a think about any sayings, quotes, expressions that have either helped your client or helped you. On Tuesday, we've got Charles coming on, who is the head coach, I believe, at Droitwich Boxing Club. I've known him as a boxer for years. He's a therapist of some kind, but I'll tell you more about that. But he's coming on to talk to you about boxing positive, where we're getting boxing training work with Parkinson's disease. Now, my granddad Bernard had Parkinson's disease, and what a horrible, horrible illness it is. But it's proven fact that it's helping with their motor skills. So, you know me, two things I'm most passionate about, apart from my family in the world, is amateur boxing and mental health. So he's going to be coming on to tell you about all the wonderful stuff that he's doing. And that's Tuesday, normal time at 7:30. And as always, if you miss us on here, you can always catch us on our YouTube channel, which please take the time to subscribe, or on all good podcast platforms. And if you have got time for an Apple Music, leave us a review, because it just helps us climb the charts faster. It'd be handy if I could get my words out. But Alexander, over to you. Any quotes, sayings that have got you through life?
Well, I'm not really a quote kind of guy, but what I find really interesting is people's idea of failure, being afraid to fail. And failure is simply a part of getting to that success. If you imagine a toddler falling over, trying to walk, and getting back up again, and eventually the toddler does it. The toddler's not interested in people laughing at it. And, regular adults wouldn't laugh at a child falling over, a toddler learning to walk anyway. The idea there is that failure, repeated attempts, repeated failures, are all collectively part of the process to success. And I'd really like people to try and see their life and anything they do in it, any failures, as part of that success. So that's really what I'd say to them.
Bang on, mate.
Okay.
Well, until we see each other next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Ta-ra a bit.
Listen.
And that's a wrap for another show. But if there are any comments or messages that you would like us to read out for our next podcast, please be in touch. There are also lots of different organisations at the bottom of this page, and hopefully they can help you or someone you care about. Please share this to spread the word. Until we talk next time, ta-ra a bit.
Listen.